Paddock, the goals, second term underway, and we're going to introduce the Birchip Cropping Group CEO, Fiona Best. Good afternoon, Fiona.
Hi, Travis. How are you?
I'm really well. It's great to be in Birchip. Weather not ideal, but hopefully still a good day on court and on field. So plenty of people out there today.
A huge crowd, Trav. It's great to kick off round one with such a great crowd and to be welcoming Nullarbor to the competition.
And to fully tick off on your credentials, you're also president of the Leisure Centre here in Birchip as well.
I am, indeed.
What I'm really interested in is, what are your sporting credentials?
It's not a long list. I have played netball, played tennis, and I have attempted to play hockey in the past. Not very well.
What's a day at the sports for you and your family mean?
Look, we're pretty involved. I've got two boys playing under 14s footy. Jared, my partner, coaches the under 17s football side and helps out with the senior team in the forward line coaching role. So I'm kid wrangling for most of the day, but I guess with my role at the Leisure Centre, just making sure that the facilities around the ground are well maintained and things are ticking along from a facilities perspective.
What can we learn from past experiences when it comes to responding to emergency events? The Birchip Cropping Group's led some important research projects.
Yeah, look, the Birchip Cropping Group is such a fantastic organisation to have in the region, particularly supporting farmers in times of drought and floods. Look, we've done quite a bit of research in terms of floods. Disease management has been a big topic, particularly last year. So, research is really, really important. So trying to support farmers to make really strong decisions in relation to, disease management and things like that.
The BCG Drought Resilience Project was a research initiative aimed at helping Australian farmers cope with the effects of the millennium drought, which lasted from 2000 to 2010. So what learnings can be applied out of what happened in October last year from the millennium drought?
I think planning. I think the importance of having strategies ready to go when crisis hits is really, really important. So all of that pre-thinking outside of the emergency situation is really, really important. We just know from history and that time, from 2000 to 2010 that you can suffer sort of decision paralysis, and that can be really debilitating. So a real learning from that was to try and make sure that we've got lots of strategies in place. We've thought through lots of different scenarios, and we've got sort of decisions ready to go, ready to be made when certain scenarios hit. So I think that's probably one of the biggest learnings that we've had. That's
a powerful learning. When you drop a phrase like decision paralysis to farmers and their families, does that cause a fair bit of reflection for them to sort of think to themselves, yeah, we did stop thinking and trying to progress, and I hadn't had the opportunity to stop and think about that?
Yeah, well, certainly when you're in the moment and you're experiencing pressures and it's hard to think clearly. So yeah, we've had a lot of conversations with farmers outside of those real pressure situations in the last few years, notwithstanding some, floods last year, but we've had some pretty good seasons.
Yep.
And so we've really been encouraging farmers to use that time of, where the seasons have been going with us to sort of scenario plan for when maybe we're not going to be in those situations again, whether it be a drought or maybe a flood, just to have plans in place and be really clear about what it's going to look like if that happens again.
Are there other opportunities apart from scenario planning that those good years represent for farming communities and what they should be doing when it goes well? You put it in, you sow it, you collect the money and you move on. Are there other opportunities in those good years that you don't get in years of drought or flood?
Oh, for sure. You're investing in machinery, investing in infrastructure, but you're making sure that you're planning for when things don't go so well. So you might be, investing in livestock containment areas if you're got managing livestock, or you might be investing in on-farm storage, or when the pressure's not quite on, and that sort of alleviates you when you're in times of drought to not have to be making those sort of infrastructure decisions. And so those are the sorts of things that we're encouraging farmers to do in the good times. Obviously, arming yourself with great research and the latest thinking in agronomic practice, that's obviously really, really important. to maximise the opportunities in the good years.
One of the outcomes of your research was recognising the importance of focusing on improving livability as an essential component to recovery. Tell us a bit more about your findings and perhaps even some examples of how this has since been achieved in areas that, as a community, we need to improve in.
Yeah, look, you're right. One of the learnings was that livability is really compromised in drought. So what we've seen is a real shift in importance around creating really positive spaces on farms. So for many farmers, they're working and living on the farm, and so there's no escape from things when it's drought conditions. So what are the things that you can focus on? And one of those things was creating positive spaces, whether that's the house, the garden, planting more trees. I think we've seen a real shift. Once upon a time, that investing in the house or investing in the garden, tree planting, it was the last thing that you would do, and it was sort of sacrificed. Whereas I think there's been a real shift in thinking, and farmers and farming families are saying, well, look, this is one thing that's in our control, that we can create a really positive space for us to come home to and have family gatherings and whatever that looks like for people. And so, yeah, we have seen a real shift in that. And going back to your previous question about what people can do in good years, it's probably setting themselves up, to make sure that they've got a real sanctuary to come back to when things, maybe not going to plan out in the paddock.
It's the second term in the Paddock The Goals, our first Bullock Shire Council vodcast, and we're with CEO of the Birchip Cropping Group, Fiona Best. Fiona, can you briefly tell us about some of the new projects you've got going on at BCG and aim to build future resilience in Bullock?
We've got a lot of projects, Travis. Always a lot of projects, but a couple of key highlights is, one of the things that BCG tries to do is bring science to the region, and an important part of doing that is to have scientists and industry come and undertake work within the region. And one of the biggest challenges that we've had recently to do that is accommodation. So BCG has embarked on a pretty bold project we're calling BCG Nexus, which is to build an accommodation facility and a small conference facility here in Birchip that will be able to house scientists and industry people and visiting students to the region. So we're in the planning phase of that. We're working with RDV and local government to bring that to fruition. So that's one exciting project. We've established a young farmer network, recognising that we've got a new generation of farmers coming through that need, a lot of support, sharing solutions and all of those things, creating networks. And so if there's any young farmers out there who would like to be part of that network, highly encourage you to get in touch with BCG.
How do they do that? What's the best way to have a look at that? Yeah,
just to contact the office, let us know where you're farming, and we'll sort of align you with an existing group that's up and running. We established them last year, and already we're having quite a bit of engagement. So with a number of and we've been really lucky to have one big event here in Birchip last year, a bigger networking event, and we had one recently over in Swan Hill, which was really well received. So we're really looking forward to progressing that project. And just lastly, Trav, the other project that I was keen to mention was the Victoria Drought Hub. BCG are part of that, and that's going to be a really important mechanism for BCG to continue to help support farmers, making sure that their businesses are really, really resilient moving forward. It's
symbolic, isn't it, of talking about drought just after a flood. The sequence continues. Thank you for making some time and coming out of the rain, and congratulations on all that you and your team and the board are doing at BCG. Thanks, a real beacon for both the Birchip and Bullock communities. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thanks, Travis.